So we dedicate our session to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. I would like to pay my obeisances to His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj and His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So we are on chapter 17 of Bhagavad Gita. It is titled as The Divisions of Faith. It has 28 verses and we will cover them in one session. So the chapter 17 is further divided into these sections. First verse, there is an inquiry by Arjuna about faith which is not based on scriptures. Because in the 16th chapter, we learned that the people whose faith is based on scriptures are called divine nature, and those whose faith is not based on scriptures, who don't follow the scriptures, they are demonic by nature. So now here Arjuna questions, what about those persons who have faith but not in scriptures, and they are not worshipping the Supreme Lord, but they are worshipping some other entity? So what will be the position of these people? And then from 2 to 7, Krishna answers Arjuna's question by saying that again, the three modes determines one's faith, and this faith then determines their worship, their puja, what they will worship. Then further, Krishna explains that our food, sacrifices, austerity, and charity all can be in three modes from verse number 8 to 22. And in 23rd to 28 verses, Krishna gives a conclusion. He says that these three words, Om Tat Sat, they are indicating Vishnu or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and any sacrifice or austerity or charity, if it is done without any faith in Supreme, then it is impermanent, the result will not be good, and it is always asat, that is, it is not eternal. So what is the link from the previous chapter? In the 16th chapter, it was concluded that one who does not follow the principles laid down in the scripture is called an asura, and one who follows the scriptural injunctions faithfully is called a deva or a demigod. Now, if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunction, what is his position? This doubt of Arjuna is to be clarified by Krishna. So in chapter 16, Krishna described peoples of two extremes: those who have scriptural faith, that is divine, and faithless, that is demonic. In chapter 17, he will describe those who are somewhere in the middle, that is with non-scriptural faith. So we know that those who are divine, they study Vedic scriptures, they are law abiding, they follow whatever is written in the Vedic scriptures, they live their life according to Vedic rules and regulations, they understand the real meaning of the Vedas, that Krishna is the goal of Vedas, and they have complete faith in these scriptures. So if somebody is following Vedic regulations, he is divine, and if he is not following these Vedic regulations, he is demonic in nature. And they are faithful, they are faithless. Now, in verse first, Arjuna inquires, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principle of scriptures but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? So here now Arjuna is thinking something. He is like analyzing that he might have seen some people who are worshipping something or the other, but they are not following the principles of scriptures. So if they are worshipping something, whether they are in the mode of goodness, in passion, or in ignorance, because their worship or their faith is not based on scriptures. It might be based on some mental concoction, or it might be based on their mentality, or whatever they have acquired from their previous life. They have faith in something. Even if we consider atheist, they have a faith that there is no God. So and accordingly they live their life. So everybody has faith in something or the other. So now Arjuna is asking what will be the position of these kind of people, because if we are not following the scriptures, then in the last chapter Krishna says that they will not attain him. They will be ruined. So he's saying if somebody has some faith in something, they are worshipping some demigod, or they are worshipping some other living entity, or maybe some spirits and all. So what will be their position? Will they be able to attain the stage of knowledge, and further they will be able to attain the spiritual realm or not? So that is the question by Arjuna. So in purport, Prabhupada says that here Arjuna is asking that are those who create some sort of God by selecting a human being on placing their faith in him, worshipping in goodness, Vishnu. So do such persons attain the perfectional stage of life or not? Do those who do not follow the rules and regulation of scriptures but have more faith in something and worship some gods, demigods, and man attain success in their effort? So Arjuna is putting these type of questions to Arjuna. Somebody would like to recite this verse?
I'll read, Mataji.
Yes, Rajesh.
Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrunu. Bhagavad Gita 17.2. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds: in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this.
Thank you, Rajshri. So, in answer to this question by Arjuna, Krishna is saying that one's faith is determined by in which mode he is. So, if somebody is in goodness, his faith will be in goodness. If somebody is in the mode of passion, his faith will be in passion. And if somebody is in ignorance, his faith will be in ignorance. So, regarding this, Prabhupada says in the purport that the association of the living entity with these different modes has been going on for. We all know that, and that is the reason for our condition. So, the living entity is in contact with material nature, and according to that, he acquires different types of mentality, his nature. And but Prabhupada is saying, according to his this nature, he may worship some god, or he may worship some demigod, or maybe he places his faith in some human being or spirits and etc. So that is according to his mentality, which he has acquired by being his in contact with the modes of material nature since time immemorial. But Prabhupada says a point that this nature can be changed. And what is a solution of this? If we associate or we come in contact with some devotee, like a bona fide spiritual master, and then start abiding by the rules and regulations, then we will be gradually able to change our position from ignorance to goodness, or from passion to goodness. So here actually Krishna is saying that if our faith is in any of these modes, especially when it is in ignorance or passion, until and unless we come in contact with a bona fide spiritual master, we will not be able to come to the stage of spiritual knowledge, and we will not be able to get spiritual enlightenment. So the main factor here is again the modes. These modes are determining our faith, and depending on our faith, we will worship something. So what happens, like if we have a particular kind of faith or a belief, we see so many human beings, they have faith in something or the other, and this faith may be because they have seen their like grandmother or grandfather, or their father and mother worshipping some uh, deity, or some demigod from the beginning of their life. When they were children, they have seen that in their family. And that's why their faith also establishes in that particular thing, and they also start worshipping. So suppose in a family they are followers of Shivji, so they children will also worship Shiva or Ganeshji, like that. So, and what happens if we are we have faith in something, then we will associate with the same kind of other person, and that will nourish our faith. The same thing happens when we start developing faith in Krishna. So we associate with devotees, and that way our faith increases. So same thing is with other faith also. So Krishna is saying that according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. So modes are determining this. We all know these are the three modes: passion, goodness, and ignorance, which are covering the soul. So they are now determining a faith also. And but Krishna has already given us this instructions that we have to rise above these three modes. As long as we are in these modes, we will not be able to reach Krishna. So the Vedas deals mainly with the subjects of three modes. Arjuna become transcendental to these three modes. So we have to situate ourselves in pure goodness. Then only we will be able to worship the Supreme Personality of God. We have to become free from all dualities, from all anxieties for gain and safety, and we have to establish ourselves in the self. That is, we have to become transcendental to these three modes. So modes are determining our faith and worship. If we are in pure goodness, then we worship Bhagwan, that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna says in this verse that if we are in the mode of goodness, then we worship demigods. Those in the mode of passion, they are worshipping the demons or human beings. And those in the mode of ignorance, they are worshipping ghost and spirit. So in Sanskrit words, it is called as Devan, that is demigod, Yaksha, Rakshasa, who are living, and Preta Bhuta, which are dead. So we have seen so many people, they are worshipping some of the other demigod, like Ganeshji, and somebody. So this is in the mode of goodness. If somebody is worshipping some demigod, but here what happens? Sometimes we place our faith in some human beings, like people used to worship Mahatma Gandhi because he gave freedom to our country, and people are worshipping Satya Sai Baba, who is a human being. Then somebody is worshipping some, like these tantrics and all. They worship some dead spirits and ghosts and all. And this is Shivji, this tantric worship, Brahmaji, Mahatma Gandhi, Durga Devi, and Hitler. So Prabhupada says in the purport that there was a man in Calcutta who started worshipping Hitler just because of the war. His business of black marketing flourished very nicely and he became very rich. So he placed his faith in Hitler and started worshipping Hitler. So that is the position of some living entities, because they, if they get something material, then they start worshipping a particular human being. In India, people worship some politicians or some film actors like Amitabh Bachchan. They worship because they are just like that. Their faith is not based on scriptures, and just to fulfill their own needs, own satisfaction, they are worshipping these human beings. So these people are called in the mode of passion. And those who are in ignorance, we see many people in India, especially in villages, if they come to know that a ghost is there in a tree, they will start worshipping that tree. If some ghost is residing in that tree, and they will start worshipping. So that type of worship is called in the mode of ignorance. And then bhuta, pret, and we all know who are bhut. Bhut are persons who have not like gotten this gross body. When they have, the soul has left the soul and the subtle body is there, but the gross body is not there. So these bhutas, they are worshipped by people in the mode of ignorance. Now, Krishna says in fifth and sixth, again about demons. That is called as demonic austerity. So those people who are undergoing severe austerities and penances, which is not recommended in the scriptures, which is not according to scriptures, they are just performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish, who torture the material elements of the body, as well as the super soul dwelling within, are known to be demons. So in verse 5 to 6, Krishna is describing demonic austerity. Uh, for example, Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu, he wanted a boon that he will never die. And for that, he performed such great austerities. He was reduced to a skeleton and hill form on him. And then finally, when Brahmaji was pleased by his austerities, what did he ask? He asked that he should not die. For, and some of them, they perform severe austerities just like they are impelled by pride, or just to show their ego or some false ego, they are doing some austerities and penances. For example, some people, they will fast due to some political reasons. They are fasting so that they are able to compel the other party to abide by their wishes. If they don't fulfill their wishes, they are ready to die out of fasting. So such type of penances or austerities somebody is doing, it is called as demonic austerity, because it is never mentioned in the Vedas, and it is just because they want to achieve something, they are attached to something, they want to fulfill their own selfish purposes, they are performing these austerities and penances, because that is giving them some sort of pleasure. As you can see in this picture, this person, he has pierced his whole body and hanging bells on his body. So it should be so troublesome to his body. He's torturing his body just because, just to show off or something, that some pleasure he's deriving out of this, some fame he's getting out of this. That's why he's torturing his own body. So in this verse, Krishna is saying such type of persons are foolish, and they are torturing their body. They are not only torturing their body, but they are also torturing the soul and the super soul who is dwelling within. So such kind of austerities and penances are condemned by Krishna in these two verses. And after this, Krishna starts describing that your food can be in three modes, your sacrifices can be in three modes, charity can be done in three modes. Similarly, these penances can also be done in three modes. Food in three modes. Somebody will like to read these three verses?
I'll read, ma'am.
Yes, Shankar.
Hare Krishna. Food in three modes. Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds, according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now, hear of the distinctions between them. Verse number 17.8. Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Bhagavad Gita 7.9, 7.9. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease. That's number 17.10. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shankar. So Krishna is saying even the food, each person prefers of three kinds. According to the three modes, the same is true for sacrifices, austerity, and charity. So now he will start describing. So verse number 8 says that if we are eating foods which are called sattvic food, sattvic food can be, like we all know, milk, then fruits, vegetables, grains, rice, wheat, etc. We all know these foods are in the mode of goodness. And people who are in Sattva Guna, they will like to consume these food. And what will happen if they consume these food? What is the result? Krishna is saying such type of foods will increase their duration of life. Everybody wants to increase their life, longevity of life, and so many uh, medical sciences working on this, how to increase the duration of life. Here, Krishna is giving us a simple solution that we have to always consume food in the mode of goodness. That will automatically increase the duration of life. Then they purify one's existence. Why? Because when we eat uh, food which is in the mode of goodness, our finer brain tissues, they get purified, and we feel some sort of satisfaction. We feel happy on consuming these food products. And by consuming these food products, we gain strength, and our health will also remain good. We will not have diseases, cancers, etc. when we consume such foods, because such foods are very juicy, like fruits, fatty, they are wholesome, they provide us with a balanced diet, and they are so pleasing to the heart. So here, fatty does not mean meat products. Fatty means milk or anything which is giving us the required fat we require in a balanced diet. And in the second verse, 17.9, Krishna described foods which are in the mode of passion. So we all know the foods which are too bitter to eat, too sour. Somebody is like, they have passion to eat very sour food, they will relish that. And some are like too salty food, they want to eat chaats and namkeens and all these things. And such foods are very hot, they are very pungent, like somebody wants more extra chilies in their food, which is, when they are eating, it's burning their throat, but still they want to eat that kind of food. So what is the result of eating such types of food which are too salty and too pungent and too hot? Krishna is saying they will result in distress. We suffer while eating also such type of food, and after eating, our whole throat will burn, and we will have acidity, we'll have gas, so much of problems. We will not feel happy, we will be in distress, and it will give us some sort of pain. And finally, what will happen? We will have diseases of the intestine, like irritable bowel or ulcers in the stomach. We all know when we have these diseases, we are advised not to eat these type of foods. So that is the result of if we are eating food in the mode of passion. And what about food in the mode of ignorance or darkness? So if the food is prepared a long back and we are eating that food, it is in the mode of darkness, because that food becomes tasteless. It loses its taste after some time, and it becomes decomposed, putrid, it may smell. And at the same time, if we eat remnants of something like juta, or which are untouchable, like meat products and eggs, etc. So these type of foods are in the mode of ignorance. So like this, Krishna gives us a full picture of which what happens when somebody is eating food in mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance.
Mataji, one question.
Hare Krishna, yes.
In the 17.9, I think,
Yes.
Mataji. So here, hot means it's a spicy food, right? It's not the
Yes,
temperature
yes.
they're saying.
Hot also, and like too hot also, when we eat it, is naturally it burns our tongue also.
Oh, that,
Whether it's very, very, very hot also. Somebody likes very, very hot food. They cannot eat warm or something like that. And pungent, and we all know that too much chilies is in that. So it will be
Okay. And is tea and coffee that falls under which category, Mataji?
Tea and coffee. Like we generally they are not in the mode of goodness. They can be in the mode of passion or maybe darkness. I didn't thought about it, but definitely in ISKCON we avoid tea and coffee because they stimulate us. The caffeine in that is called as a stimulant, and that's why it increases the mode of passion in us.
Okay.
That's why to remain active, if we want to be awake late nights, then we like to have tea and coffee. So definitely, I think so. It comes in the mode of passion because it is increasing our that mood when we are consuming tea and coffee.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
But Prabhupada explains this in a very different manner. He says, we all know whether the food is in mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. If it is not offered to Krishna, then we should not consume it. We should always consume prasadam, and that is called sanctified food. Because in third chapter, 13th verse, we all know that if we don't offer and eat, we are literally eating sin. So we should always offer everything we are consuming, even if a fruit, we should offer it first to Krishna. Then only we should consume it. And so Prabhupada says in the purport, if remnants of food are eaten only, remnants of food can be eaten only when they are part of meal that was first offered to the Supreme Lord or first eaten by saintly persons, especially the spiritual master. So in that, Krishna has mentioned that we should not eat remnants of food. But Prabhupada explains that we can take remnants of food if it is eaten by our spiritual master, our guru. And that is called as Maha Prasad. Because after offering to the Lord, it has been eaten by our guru and then we are consuming it. So it will sanctify, it will purify us. It is advisable. So Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Supreme Lord Krishna has already said that he accepts preparation of vegetables of flour, milk, which are offered with love and devotion. As in 4th chapter, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Of course, in the 9th chapter. Of course, devotion and love are the chief things which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts. We all know that food should always be prepared with love and devotion, that we are preparing it for Krishna. And then we should offer it and then accept. So any food which is prepared by injections of scriptures and then offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be taken even if prepared long ago, because such food is always transcendental. Therefore, to make a food antiseptic, eatable, and palatable for all persons, one should offer the food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This has been explained by Prabhupada in the purport of this verse. So we all know that the food of Jagannath Puri, the prasadam, Jagannath Puri prasadam, is famous. And the rice which we get from Jagannath Puri, they are so old, but still we consume that to break our fast on Ekadashi. So any food which is offered to Lord is always transcendental, and it can be consumed if it is prepared long back. But it doesn't mean that we can prepare a food like in some countries, people will prepare food only on Sundays, and for the whole week they will keep some packed food in the fridge. They will prepare it, take it out, warm it in the microwave, and have it. So such type of food, how can they have good health by consuming such food? So it is always advisable we should prepare fresh food every day in the morning, afternoon, and evening, offer it to Lord, and then consume it. But still, we should always have a faith that prasad is transcendental and it is never contaminated. Now, Krishna comes to sacrifices. So in these 3 verses, he explains about sacrifice in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Would you like to read it?
I will read.
Sacrifices in 3 modes: Bhagavad Gita 17.11, sacrifices in goodness, performed according to the directions of scripture as a matter of duty without desire for material result. Bhagavad Gita 17.12, sacrifices in passion, performed for some material benefit for the sake of pride. And Bhagavad Gita 17.13, sacrifices in ignorance, performed without regard for the directions of scriptures, without distribution of prasadam, without chanting of Vedic hymns, and remunerations to the priest, and without faith. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shakti. So, Krishna is saying if any sacrifice, it is based on scriptures. It is mentioned in the scriptures, and it is done in mode of goodness. And sacrifices should always be done as a matter of duty. Like it is a duty to do some samskaras, some sacrifices, some yajnas, some havnas, and so we should do. But we should not desire anything back from them. We should not do any sacrifice for some material result. So if that is the criteria, then we are performing the sacrifice in mode of goodness. And opposite to that, if we are performing some sacrifice for some material benefit for the sake of pride, so that we may be honored in the society. I already gave you the example. Sometimes some people will fast for some political reasons, and they want to fulfill their some desires from the opposite party, and that's why they may sometimes die also due to that. But such type of sacrifices are not according to scriptures, and Krishna is condemning them. So they are just for their own selfish motives. And if some sacrifices which are without any regard to scriptures, then it is in the mode of ignorance. So Krishna says that sacrifice should always be followed by distribution of prasad. So any sacrifice where there is no distribution of prasada, there is no chanting of Vedic hymns, and there is no remuneration given to the priest, they are done without any faith. Such sacrifices are in the mode of ignorance. Now 14 to
There's
16.
one question on the previous slide.
Yes, Shanmugh.
So previously we said in the worship, right, in three modes of faith, if we worship supreme, the person in mode of goodness, I think worships demigod, and in pure goodness, Bhagwan. So here, when we say sacrifice, these are the sacrifices listed in Vedas, right? So does it also talk about the worshipping deity? I mean, so how it is correlated to, so if let's say somebody is performing sacrifice as per the scripture, but let's say they worship the demigod, can we say that that is a
That is in a mode of goodness.
That's still mode of goodness. Okay.
Yes. But Krishna is always, again, always telling us, even if we are doing something according to Vedas, but our ultimate motive is not to reach to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or that person doesn't know that Krishna is like Supreme Personality of God is the Yagnapati. All results of all sacrifices are ultimately meant for Krishna.
Vishnu.
If they don't have that criteria, then they are doing their activities in mode of goodness. But if they know that I'm doing everything for Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it becomes a sacrifice in mode of pure goodness. That is Shuddh Sattva. So all like we all know that when we are up to the level of goodness at least, then we can think going beyond the modes. But in passion and ignorance, that possibility is very, very low. So we all know that when these Vijwasis, they were performing yajnas for satisfaction of Indra, because Indra gives us rain. So Krishna was just a boy that time, but he advised Vijwasis not to do that, not to do to that type of yajna, Indra Havan yajna, to please Indra, and he told them to worship go again. He wanted them to direct to Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he know that if we please God, everything else will be taken care of. So we need not separately worship each and other demigod for some particular like motive. So that we have already studied in 7th chapter also, 9th chapter also. We need not water the leaves separately if we are watering the roots. Though it is mentioned in the scriptures, because scriptures are for all kinds of people who have faith in even the worship of these bhoot, pretas, ghosts, and spirits. They are also mentioned somewhere in the Vedas. Why? Because Vedas cater to wide variety of people. So Vedas, there's something in the Vedas for everyone. But ultimately, we have to know the purpose and goal of Vedas, and that Krishna highlights again and again in Veda, Bhagavad Gita also, that the goal of these scriptures, the hidden goal, we can say maybe, that even if you are following the scriptures, you have to know that the ultimate goal is Krishna. That is the thing. So we can be in the mode of goodness when we are following the rules and regulations of scriptures and we are living a life according to scriptures. But Krishna is advising us to go beyond that also. Now, austerity. Now, in this, Krishna is describing austerities of three types. We can do any austerity by our body. We can do any austerity by our speech, by our mind. So, what is the austerity of the body? If by the body, if we are utilizing our body to worship the Supreme Lord, or we are worshipping Brahmanas, we are worshipping our spiritual master, worshipping our superiors like father and mother, then we are doing some austerities with our body. Previously, we all know that children used to get up and they used to and offer pranams to their mother, father, and then they used to go to Gurukula, and they used to worship the feet of their spiritual master. They used to offer pranams to them. And previously in our Vedic culture, we all know that Brahmanas were worshipped. So this is the austerity by body as mentioned by Krishna. And along with this, Krishna mentions in this verse that to maintain cleanliness, both external and internal, is also an austerity of the body. We should be very simple. We should not be duplicit and following celibacy and non-violence. All these are included in the austerity by the body. About non-violence, simplicity, and cleanliness, we have discussed before also. And then, what is the austerity of speech? The austerity of speech is speaking words that are all truthful. We should not tell lies. Then, our word should be pleasing to others. It should not cause any distress or misery to others. Whatever we are speaking, it should be benefiting others. It should not harm them. That is the criteria. Somebody will speak any nonsense and they don't have any feeling for others. They sometimes are speaking just out of hatred. They are speaking wrong words and they are hurting others' emotions. So this is not austerity of the speech. If we are being truthful, we are speaking pleasing words, they are for the benefit of others, then that is the austerity of the speech. It should not agitate others. And along with that, if we are using our speaking capability in reciting Vedic literatures, in reading shlokas, memorizing shlokas, and teaching others about Vedic literatures, then that is austerity of speech. And what is the austerity of the mind? When our mind is satisfied with whatever we have, we are not hankering. Again, if we are very simple living and high thinking, then that is austerity of the mind. We are very grave, like we say, na, devotees, pure devotees, they are very grave. Why? Because they are always thinking for their spiritual upliftment. They are self-realized people. So all self-realized people it seems to be very grave. They are serious in their spiritual life. That's why they are grave. Then to have control on our senses, that is austerity of the mind. And what will happen with this all? We will purify our existence. So all these things, if we cultivate, we are actually doing austerity by our mind. And after describing these three types of austerity, Krishna again describes them in according to three modes. So he says that if our austerity is inspired by some faith, some divine faith, then it is in the mode of goodness. And it is the whole purpose of our austerity is only spiritual. Like we fast on Ekadashis, we fast on the appearance and disappearance of our spiritual masters, and some occasions like God Purnima, Janmashtami. So our purpose there is just for the pleasure of the Lord. So that is a spiritual purpose. We are not asking for some reward in exchange for our austerities, for our fasting, or whatever, like in day-to-day life also. We are all getting up early in the morning and chanting for the pleasure of the Lord. That's also an austerity. If we are not going outside and eating non-prasadam food, that is also an austerity for us. And that we are all doing because Krishna has advised us in Bhagavad Gita. So that all austerity is in the mode of goodness because it is for some spiritual purpose. But some people who are doing some austerity out of pride, they want some honor, they want that other people should worship them, seeing their austerities. And what will be the nature of such austerities? It will not be stable and no permanent results they will get out of it. So that is austerity in mode of passion. And what about of ignorance? It's just mere out of foolishness, just to destroy others. They want to harm others, and at the same time, they will be self-torturing by doing such type of austerities, as we have already discussed in verse 5 and 6. These people, we have seen so many people, they will walk on red hot coal. They are literally just trying to torture their body so that they may gain some fame, and some people will praise them. There is no spirituality behind that. So such type of austerity is like in passion or ignorance. Then after describing austerity, sacrifices and food, Krishna now comes to charity. Charity can also be in three modes. So if we are doing some, and it's always advisable to do charity in mode of goodness. So we should always feel like it is a duty to be charitable. We should not accept any return for our charity. And if we are doing some charity, we should be like it's mentioned in the verse that it should be a pure place. It depends on time, place also. So if we do some charity in some holy places, then it is good. We should always do some charity when we go to visit some dham. Then time should also matter. Like proper time means we all know that it is advisable to do charity after we fast. Okay, like it is mentioned in our scriptures that after we fast for Ekadashi also, we should invite devotees and offer them prasadam, or we should do charity. Or during Grahan, like solar eclipse and lunar eclipse also, they are the time during which we should do charity. And charity should always be done to a qualified person. Qualified person means who will not misuse our charity. Like always Brahmanas are the person, or Vaishnavas, we should give charity because we know that they will utilize that money or whatever we give for the upliftment of their spiritual life. So we should not give charity to each and everybody. Like it is, if we are doing that, it is in the mode of passion or ignorance. Some charity is done for some result. Okay, they want something in return. for some material prosperity, for some material gain. They think that if I'll donate something, I will get, like some people will think, I will go and donate 20 rupees in the hundi of the temple, and I will ask something from Krishna, from the deity, from Shivji, that please give me, fulfill me, give me a job, please pass me in the exam, something like that. Some material gain we are doing charity. So that is in the mode of passion. And sometimes if our attitude is like we are giving unwillingly, like sometimes due to some force our senior has told us, or a senior devotees or somebody is telling us, that's why we are doing it, but our own wish is not there. So what will happen? That type of charity will do very grudgingly, and then it will not be any benefit, or like it will not lead to any spiritual upliftment. So if we are giving charity, it should be without any grudges, it should be willingly, and it should be to qualified person and at a proper time and place. And if we do such kind of charity, then definitely it will help us to increase our um, like strength in the spiritual life. So that will be the motive. Now, opposite to this, if we are uh, doing charity at some impure place, like sometimes some people may donate at some this Madira where the people are all drunken. So that is an improper place. Or if we do some charity to a beggar and he goes and just to use that to drink some wine or alcohol. So that type of charity have no use. We are giving it to an unqualified person. And if we are, our attitude is very disrespectful by giving charity, very neglectful, we are not cautious, we are not careful what we are doing, where we are giving, then this type of charity is in the mode of ignorance. So this is how Krishna is defining charity here. Rupa says in the purport, there is no recommendation for giving charity indiscriminately. Spiritual perfection should always be a consideration. Therefore, charity is recommended to be given at a place of pilgrimage, at lunar or solar eclipses, at the end of the month, to a qualified Brahmana or Vaishnava devotee, or in temples. Such charity should always be given without any consideration of return. And in 21 purport, Krishna is saying, Prabhupada is saying, charity is sometimes performed for elevation to the heavenly kingdom, sometimes with great trouble and with repentance afterwards. Oh, why I have spent so much in this way? There are many charitable foundations which offer their gifts to institutions where sense gratification is going on. Such charities are not recommended in the Vedic scriptures. Only charity in the mode of goodness is recommended. So what is the conclusion after discussing all these things? It has been explained that penance, sacrifice, charity, and foods are divided into three categories: mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But whether first class, second class, or third class, they are all conditioned. We have discussed this. Whether we are bound by iron rods or silver or gold, we are bound. So all these type of charities, sacrifices, penances are contaminated by material modes of nature. Only and only when they are aimed at the supreme. Om Tat Sat. These three words, they are actually representing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Eternal. They becomes mean for spiritual elevation. So the aim of any of these things should be Krishna, the Eternal. Then only we will lead to our spiritual elevation. In the scriptural injection, such an objective is always indicated. These three words, Om Tat Sat, particularly indicate the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the Vedic hymns, always the word Om is found. And we all know that in previous chapters, Krishna is saying that among all Vedas, I am the Pranav. And the Pranav was mentioned as Om. And in the 10th chapter, we have also discussed that what is Om. Om is actually the non-personal representation of Krishna, or the sound representation of Krishna is Om. And so many Vedic mantras, they start with Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Narayana. So Om is actually used in many Vedic hymns for representing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So many sacrifices are done by reciting this Om Tat Sat. Mean the result goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So all the sacrifices, penances, charity should be meant for the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the verse number 23, 24, 25, and 26 and 27, Krishna further clarifies on these three words. Somebody would like to read this?
Yeah, Mataji, I will read it.
Yes, Krishna.
Bhagavad Gita 17:23. From the beginning of creation, the three words Om, Tat, Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. 17.24. Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance is accordance with the scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme. 1725. Without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement. 1726 and 27. The absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice and it is indicated by the word Sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called Sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Partha.
Thank you, Prashant. So Krishna in verse number 23 is saying from the beginning of creation, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are symbolic representations of Krishna. And they were used by Brahmanas when they used to chant some Vedic hymns. And they used to perform some sacrifices. And the purpose of behind this recitation and performing sacrifices and saying Om Tat Sat was that it is for the satisfaction of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So whenever these transcendentalists, these persons who are self-realized, they are undertaking any type of sacrifice or charity or penance based on the scriptures, they will always start by reciting Om. Because they know that the purpose of any of these is for the Supreme. So we all know, and so many whenever any sacrifice is performed, all the Vedic hymns or verses which start with Om are recited by the Vedic by the Brahmanas. And what is the meaning of Tat? Tat is like we can say there is a verse called Tat Tvam Asi Amsi. Tat Tvam Amsi. So it has been described by Vaishnavas as you are his. You are his means you belong to Krishna. You are part of Krishna. Tat Tvam Amsi. But sometimes Mayavadis, they will explain this verse like Tat Tvam Asmi Amsi as you are that. Okay, we can say you are that. Means they want to say that you are, there is no difference between the soul and super soul or Atma and Paramatma. But you are that can be taken as positive if we think that you are that, but qualitatively, not quantitatively. So that is also beginning of some verses in our Vedas. And what is the main purpose of saying Tat means the result or the purpose of performing such activities is we want to get free from material entanglement. So without desiring any fruitive results, if you are performing various sacrifices, penance, and charity, we use the word Tat. Means I don't demand anything by doing this sacrifice. And what is the purpose behind such activities we are doing is to get free from material entanglement. So first purpose is we want to attain the supreme. Second purpose is to get free, to get liberation from this material entanglement. And so we all know that absolute truth is the objective of any kind of devotional sacrifices, and it is indicated by the word Sat. So Sat, we all know it means eternal, and absolute truth is eternal, and so the result of a sacrifice will also be eternal. So here Krishna is saying any such type of sacrifice which is meant for pleasing absolute truth, it is always Sat. It is advisable, and a sacrifice, charity, penance becomes of absolute nature because it is for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, after describing what is the Sat feature of absolute truth, like Sat feature of our charity, penance, sacrifice. So in the last verse, Krishna says that if you are not doing these activities, then it is asat. Asat means the result will be impermanent. There will be no eternity in that. So what is in the last verse, Krishna explains ashraddhaya hutam datam tapastaptam kritam chaya asat itte uchyate partha na chatat pretya no iha. So anything done as sacrifice, charity or penance, if it is without faith in the Supreme, then, O son of Pritha, it is impermanent. That is asat. And what will be the result? It is useless both in this life and in the next life. So, by these 4 verses, we can understand that the aim or the motive behind any sacrifice, charity, and penance is Om Tat Sat. And that is for the Supreme Personality of Godhead with complete faith in the Supreme. And then only the result will be permanent and we can elevate ourselves quickly. But if we are not doing that, then it is useless performing any kind of sacrifice, any type of charity, any kind of penance. It will of no use whether in this life or in the next life. So Asat is anything done without faith. Sat is anything done with faith. And the result is it is useless both in this life and the next life. So after describing all this, Prabhupada in the purport gives the message of this chapter. What is the message? That everything should be done for the Supreme in Krishna consciousness. That is transcendental consciousness. Without such faith and without proper guidance. So any charity, penance, sacrifice, it should be under the guidance of a bona fide parampara, bona fide spiritual master. If you are not doing that, then there can be no fruit. It is useless in this as well as the next life. So in the conditional state, people are attracted to worshipping demigods, some ghosts, some yakshas like Kuvera, etc. So the mode of goodness is definitely better than mode of passion and ignorance, but one should directly take to Krishna consciousness. Why? Because it is transcendental to all the 3 modes of nature. Although there is a process of gradual elevation, if one by the association of pure devotees takes directly to Krishna consciousness, that is the best way. We all know why we advise them, like if somebody is having no faith, so we will approach that person to a level like that at least he start gaining some faith in something, whether it is non-scriptural also. From non-scriptural faith, then he can rise himself to scriptural faith. And from scriptural faith, he can rise himself to transcendental faith. So that can be a gradual process. But Prabhupada is saying, again, why should we take a long way? Why should we take steps? We should directly take a lift. So, and how that is possible? That is possible only by the mercy of some pure devotee. If by chance we come in contact with a pure devotee, then we can have this transcendental consciousness, association of pure devotee. We can take directly. And that is recommended in this chapter. To achieve success in this way, one must first find the proper spiritual master receive training under his direction, then one can achieve complete firm faith in the Supreme. So we all know the 9 stages of devotional service. It all starts with Shraddha. Shraddha to Bhajan Kriya, then association, then Nishtha, then Asakti, Ruchi, Bhav, Prem. So we all know that first we have very little faith, but it has to be converted into strong faith, that is Nishtha, by association and by performing our devotional activities, that is Bhajan. So when the faith matures, ultimately it will lead to love of Godhead, and that is the ultimate goal of all living entities. So Prabhupada is recommending that one should therefore take to Krishna consciousness directly. So that is the indirect message of this 17th chapter. Hare Krishna. So any comments or something you want to discuss? So I think so 16th and 17th chapters are direct and self-understood. They are not so difficult and philosophical. And that's why we took only one session for these chapters. And now 18th chapter is left, which is the conclusion, or again a summary type of all the things we have discussed in the Bhagavad Gita till now. Mostly in 18th chapter, we will discuss about the 3 yogas and the moods. So it is mostly about those. So if any questions on this, otherwise I will end the session. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare